Okay, so now we're going to talk about adjustments. I've already shown you how to do the adjustments in the layers with this because we made that adjustment layer. But all these adjustments have specific commands. So what I want to do is go through and show you what some of them do. We're just going to go through them piece by piece so you can kind of see where you might want to use them or where you might not want to use them. And then I'll go over some of these blending layers so you can see where you'll want to make those adjustments possibly or not. Okay, so we got a lot of different layers in here. I'm going to go ahead and knock out the adjustment layer, and notice how it brings that color back into the piece. And I'm going to go ahead and take out the linear burn and just do a normal, and so you can kind of see how that works. I'll raise the opacity way down, and you can kind of see without the blending layers and the adjustments, it doesn't do much to the image. Really, to bring that texture in, you want to use those adjustments and blending layers so you can use that paper texture, because just opacity alone is not going to do much to it, right? Okay, so let's look at what they do. I'm just going to take this guitar face for now, since it's got some color but not a lot. It's more of a neutral, and we'll look and see what it does and what each of these things do. In your adjustments here, each of those will be in the adjustment layers. Okay, but when you go through adjustments, it will affect the layer directly and it will destroy the layer. Meaning, this guitar face I have, if I go in and let's see, go into my adjustments and use hue and saturation and desaturate it to where it's practically black and white, or is black and white, and I hit OK, it makes that layer black and white. I can't go back unless I physically go all the way back to whatever step I did in the file, which means it will get rid of everything else that you've done. And it destroys that layer. That's why it's good to use those adjustment layers and attach it only to that layer so that you don't destroy that layer. Another thing to do would be to copy the layer and then play with it. But then you have two layers and you're raising the memory of the file. Why make the file larger than it has to be? They're already big, right? And so that will also slow down the performance of your computer. But anyways, let's go through some of these. So I'm just going to Command Z on almost all of them and just do them. All right, so we'll go through the adjustments. Brightness and contrast is easy. Brightness and contrast, levels and curves are practically all the same thing, but they get more complex. Brightness and contrast I hardly ever use. Okay, brightness and contrast only gives you two selections. Brightness, okay, which is simply the brightness of the image. Notice it will blow it out. Okay, it will blow it out if I raise the brightness way up, or if I take it way down, it will make it dark, and you'll lose a lot of the detail in the image. Contrast, on the other hand, is the same thing. You can either make it really contrasty or not very contrasty. So if I lower it, it kind of washes it out. If I raise it up, it will lighten things up and make other things darker. Same thing, you lose detail with brightness and contrast. Levels. Levels, you won't lose as much detail because you have your histogram here, and what levels does is, for instance, this would be kind of like your brightness and contrast down here where you don't have the control. But if I wanted to make it, let's say, brighter, I could turn all of these to white, but notice it will retain a lot of the mid-tone details, and I can slide that around, okay, or keep all the details in and slide my middle around to either make it a darker while still keeping the lightest lights and the blackest blacks in there. All right, so that's one good thing about levels. Also with levels, you can adjust the individual colors. Let's say, and these are channels. By the way, when you learn about channels, we're adjusting each channel. Let's say you want more dark reds, which will then create more of a green-blue image because it adds more of the green and blues into this area because you lose the reds. All right. You can also adjust it here. All right. So that might be a way that you play with your image to give it a different tone or a feel. All right. Lastly, though, we have curves, which is the most gives you the most power. Notice with curves, when you adjust, it not only adjusts the center section, but it also curves it so you don't have a direct effect and you don't lose all of them. If you think about it, level smashes them together. Curves just kind of moves more in one area and lessens another area without smashing the values together. So in brightness and contrast, you completely lose values. In levels, you lose some values but not others, while still keeping a consistent movement between light and black. With curves, you lose some levels but only to a certain extent. You don't lose them all, and it kind of softens it up a bit. All right, but the same thing with curves. I can go into each channel and I can then adjust the kind of the color or the hue basically by if I add in these different curves of the channel or not. Okay, when you start playing around with these, or when you start looking at special effects online like tutorials, a lot of artists will tell you to go into curves and do certain things to the curves in order to give a certain effect. All right, but this is kind of what they do. They're great for, we talked about color corrections before already, and so you kind of know what they are. All right, so let's move down to exposure. This is something you'll probably won't ever use unless, again, a certain special effect calls for it, but it's kind of just darkroom stuff. Honestly, if you're a photographer and you have Lightroom, I don't think you'll ever touch any of those. If you're doing a professional photograph just for color correction, all that stuff is in Lightroom and much more powerful. But it's here in Photoshop for us designers who aren't photographers. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and skip vibrance. Again, you can play around with what it does. This image is not good for it, but I do want to get to some of the ones that I think are more important for us. Obviously, hue and saturation is greatly important, because if this guitar, for instance, is a little warm, or I want it to, let's just say, be green, I can make it green or green yellow. Maybe I have a color scheme that is only greens and yellows, or anything in between those two colors. I can adjust each image so that the hue is dominant with just that color area, and I can make a color scheme. And I'm going to have to step back a few steps, but let's say I want these all cool colors. Your guitar is a warm. She's obviously a warm. So if I do the same thing with her, I can turn her more into a cool. So now I have this image that has a color system that has more cool colors. Notice the guitar, since it's more of a green-yellow, starts to pop a little bit as a warmer color. Okay, but that's what you can do with that. Now remember, each of these will be in your adjustment layer, so you don't have to destroy the image. All right, black and white just turns your image black and white. We don't need to screw with that. I'm not going to show many of these because you don't really need them, but you will probably want to play with these sometimes. Completely inverts the colors into what is the same thing as what's called a negative image. Okay, so it makes whites black and makes blacks whites. Same thing with colors. If you're in an orange, it will make it a blue. It will, whatever is its complementary color, it basically inverts all the numbers so you have the opposite. Okay? Let's see here. So, adjustments. Posterize is a cool little effect. What it will do is it's kind of like levels. I'll show you the levels after I'm done with it. Notice I only have 4 levels. It will smush all your levels in your channels, your reds, your greens, your blues, RGBs, into 4 different areas on the histogram. If I raise it up, it gives it more detail. But basically, if I have, these were good when you're working with GIFs, where you were doing things for web, and you only wanted certain colors because you wanted to make the files smaller by turning them into a GIF file. Now we just use them as an artist, because with the amount of information that can go through the web and the speeds of broadband, etc., we don't need to concern ourselves really with making images so small that they have to be transmitted over a modem, a phone line anymore. But as you can see, it creates a really interesting effect, doesn't it? Right, with the guitar. So I'm going to hit OK and then take you into levels, and you'll see what I mean. This was 4. Look where it smashed all of the information into an even distribution of 4 areas in each of the channels. Okay? If I did 8, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? You'd have an even distribution of 8 areas. All right? So if I moved my RGB and I just move this one out, okay, moved it down, notice that they disappear. Now I'm only left with 2, okay, in the RGB area. That's with the darkness and lightness. All right, let's see. So that's an interesting effect. Adjustments, threshold. Threshold's kind of the same thing as posterize, only on a very low level. It's either black or it's white. And then you determine where you want the black or the white. So if I want everything that's on this side to turn to white, I'll set it right at middle gray. Everything on this side turns to black. So if I want a really black image, I can move this, and notice if I get too far, the whole thing is just black. It's because of all the information there. So I can get to that posterize area. You see that? So that's a pretty interesting effect, especially if you want to make like a stamp, or like I said, you want a texture. So maybe I just want this guitar texture in the sky or something like that, in this icy tundra. You know, I could then bring this in, do a blending layer, screen, there it is, the guitar, and then on this layer I could use this layer below. And I'm just kind of showing you how you can create these special effects. Notice I have this here, so I'll hold down the plus, okay, and oops. So what I'll do is I'll kind of try with my, let me just go with the lasso to show you really quickly. So I'll take this thing and I'll go kind of along where this is. It won't be very good, but this is just me drawing by hand. Okay, so if I select this whole area here and I have that guitar guy there, right, I can then go into the guitar and hit delete, and notice now I make it look like this guitar is kind of popping out of the background. Right, so that might be kind of an effect you do, and then of course I could lower the opacity down of that guitar, and it gives a real light look. So it's not very intrusive, but that's kind of a way that you can use those modes or those effects to just make a texture or something else with an image that isn't dominant, etc., where you combine these things together. You just don't want to be an amateur and use them just to use them, or use them alone, because that immediately will make your work look ugh, right? You want to know how to use these in unison and how to set up a nice space that all integrates together as one working piece or collage. Okay, so let me go ahead and step back, and let's see what else we have. Oh, not back enough. There we go. Okay, so we'll go to oh, I'm not on that layer. You got to be on the right layer. Adjustments, and let's see if I have any of the rest of these. Desaturate just turns it black and white. That's an easy one to know. The rest of them I'm not going to go through because I don't really do it. I don't really use them very much, but you can use, if you look up any of these or find advanced features for them, you know, on your own, go ahead. All right. So a lot of this has to do with photography, though. But let's say I wanted to do exactly what I did with that. What's it called? The mountain, right? You see that cool effect I got with the mountain? Now here's the thing that you want to know as an artist. How do I do that without destroying the guitar? Well, I could copy that guitar layer, right? Now let me see if I can do the exact same thing and keep the image intact using only adjustment layers and mask, which are things you want to know. You want to know what's called clipping masks. Clipping masks only show a portion of the image but don't destroy it. Okay? So let's go ahead and we'll do that. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to use my adjustment layer on the guitar to get it where I want it to go. So here it goes. Adjustment layer. What did I do to it? Was it posterize? Right? Oh, the threshold. Okay, well, what do? I have to hold down Option so it only affects that layer right there. Great. Threshold. Now I moved it like somewhere up here, so it got that texturing in. Fabulous. Okay, I did that. Now I believe I used this thing here, the guitar, right, as a blending layer. And I can't remember which one I did. Maybe screen. Lowered the opacity. Right? So I'm getting there. You guys see that? I'm getting there. Now what was the last thing I did? I drew in, so I'll remove the guitar to get the mountain, the background. Here's a cool thing. I want to do the whole thing. This whole thing. So that way if I ever change the guitar, I can. I'm going to do it really quickly. Again, I'm not going to... Oops. Excuse me. It's not going to be perfect. And I don't care if it's perfect or not because it's just the demo. Again, I'm not going to get every little nook and cranny like you should as an artist doing this thing as a professional piece. Great, so I got that. Now I'm going to come down and get the rest of the image, and I didn't quite get it down below. Okay, but what I can do is add to my selection. Use this here, which is add to selection, or with this selection up, hold down Shift and the plus comes up, and that will add to the selection. Notice I want to do that because over here I didn't get the, oh, shame on me. Okay, so I'll take it from the corner here and take this whole box, and that adds to the selection. I will hold down Shift with my lasso and drag around this area to get the whole thing, and it'll add. Awesome! Okay, now I got this selection. You ready for this? This is going to be magical. To this layer, now that I've got this selected, okay, there's this thing here called Add Layer Mask. I want to mask out this area. So I'm going to add a layer mask to this. Okay, see how it makes that mountain area? Now watch what happens when I turn it on. Great. But what's my problem? Yeah, so whenever you add a mask, whatever's white is what will be seen, whatever's black is what we've called masked out. It's like if you put... The reason they call it masking, remember with painting, like if you paint a house, you put tape down an area so that when you spray your paint, you peel the tape back and it doesn't get in that area. Same thing as an artist. When you're masking something, you're masking out a selection or an area so that you can't see it. Okay? Now, watch what I do. Remember that invert? Everything that's white becomes black. Everything that's black becomes white. Command I is the command. Let's see if while I'm selected on the mask, right here, if I do that, if it works. Whoa. Cool. Here's also the great thing about the mask. Look at that. Look at that where it's like not seen very well. Okay? Remember, everything that's white, I want to be seen. I could use my pen tool to go in here and clean it up. Or I can, while I'm selected on the mask, paint white. Okay, I have this. I don't want the fuzzy edge. I want it to be very hard. Let's see, is that fuzzy or hard? Let's see. Okay, so I want this to be hard. And if I paint white, look what happens. Pretty cool. Parts of this here, I see mountains in there, and I don't quite want the mountains. And in fact, I might even give myself a little fuzziness so I don't have anti-aliasing. So let me go ahead and do that, and that will kind of give where the pixel transitions are, so it won't be perfectly hard. It will feather it up a little bit. And then if I have mountains and I see mountains there, I can go to my eraser, which will create black, or I can paint and just simply switch to black. And notice if I switch to black and then paint, it will take the guitar out. Pretty cool? I'm manipulating the mask to affect the guitar's area. Now, why is this important? Anyone want to guess why this mask is important to have? Not only does it not destroy the original image, but if I want to go into only the original image where I don't touch the mask and then watch this, I move the original image. So if I just select on the original image but not the mask, okay, right now they're linked. And I think if you see here, oh, I moved the mask too. There should be a way, and maybe it's not linked. Maybe what I can do is hold down Control, and see if there's a mask option. Nope. Well, I'm trying to figure out. There we go. Hold down Command and select, and I think it unlinked it. Look at that. Now that it unlinked it, they don't move together. And for instance, I can then transform, Command T, my guitar. Wait, that should have brought up image, transform, scale. There we go. So if I do this, I want it to be larger. Notice it still stays on the under the mask. Okay, so I'm setting up my file so I can edit up only certain images if I want to change my composition later. I don't have to redo it. I never have to redo the whole thing again. Plus, I don't add more layers to make my file larger than it has to be, right? So now I can still do things like if I have threshold here, I can still do things to this like add hue or something else, okay? Or even in here, relink it by hitting Command, clicking in the middle and relinking. I probably wouldn't want to do that unless I'm linking this file along with the background, because I'd want to say that if I move my background or make my background larger, that it'll also make the guitar larger. But the problem I have with that is I'd have to move it down here, right? Or I think I can hold down, oops, I'm sorry. If I hold down Command and then hit Command here and just select these, then if I ever move, if I want to just nudge my background, notice it nudges everything, and it won't affect my beautiful supermodel I have, right? Okay, so I'd hold down Command to select them and highlight all of them. But yeah, so there we go. Any questions thus far? No? Okay, finally, let's look at the blending layers then. So now that I got my guitar in here, I can kind of look at different options of blending. Blending layers affects, you take the layer that you're using the blending layer on, and it will affect everything below it. So let's go ahead and use a supermodel because she's got a lot of, I don't really know if she's a supermodel. She's obviously a model, but I don't know about super. So let's take a look at what the blending layer will do. I'm going to bring color. Okay, so I'm going to try to bring color back into this. So, let's see. Why is this not? Oh, okay. I have the whole layer as the opacity. So let me bring color back into that, a little color back into that, so we can see both little blue and warm. I don't want it to be too similar. Let me add a command, a hue to this. I'll change the hue. There we go. So it's something a little different. Maybe cool, but a little bit different. All right. So let's take a look at blending layers. So if I click on her, or I can even click on her with the green, and let's see what happens. All right. So she, notice the reason the guitar looks funny is because the guitar is still in front of her. If I wanted her to be in front of the guitar, of course I'd have to put her up to the top and then it'd be in front of that layer. So let's try some. All right, dissolve. If I move this down, it will do this. Probably pretty stupid in most cases. Okay, darken. All right. So even when I have it fully in, notice what darken does is it takes some of the lights and brings the back through. Okay, multiply will knock out lights. Color burn will burn the colors into the tones. And again, you have a whole list of these that you can look up online. You don't even need me to really go through the lecture on this because you can just look up Photoshop blending layers, and there's tons of tutorials online that will show you these. But I want you to understand that different things you do will knock out the back. Like for instance, you know how I selected white before? Well, if you use how I selected out the white and got rid of it, well, you can bring an image in with white background, and then you can simply use multiply, and it will get rid of the white. If you have an image with a black background, you can use screen, and it'll get rid of the black. Okay, but you really want to be careful with some of these. I mean, some of these just look like garbage. So you have to find the right blending layer to blend in to give you the right texture that you want. Okay, and of course, depending upon your colors, because what blending layers do, for instance, if you have a pink and a black, or you have a background that has no color, certain blending layers will have the color affect that black. Whereas if you use a pink against a yellow, those same blending layers may not have any effect. So it depends upon what color pixels you have on top of the background color pixels that will affect what the blending layer does. I know it sounds confusing, but again, it's just mostly experimentation and you doing things with your image to play around, fool around. I'm expecting that a lot of this project will be fun, playful things, okay, that you'll do with experimentation. All right, so finally, once I'm done with this project, oh shoot, I didn't mention type. Let me mention type real quick. Finally, once I'm done with this project and I bring in my type is so simple. It just creates it creates what's called a vector graphic. I'm going to just simply click on the image. It will make a new type layer. Okay, all my commands are up here. I'll change. Let's see. I'll make this large, or I can make it larger once I'm done. What was the font that I had gotten again? Anyone remember what it was called? Huh? B? It was with a B, right? So, Billion Stars, personal use, and I was going to call it script font. Script font. Okay. So now that I got that, I can also transform this layer. Make sure you always hold down Shift, especially here. So I have my script and font. Great. And then when I hit Enter, it will put it in here. Now, this can do kind of the same thing. For instance, let me show you a real cool effect or something with type or things that you can play with. I have my script font up. I'm going to make a copy of this so that I have two of them. Now on my bottom one, I'm going to go ahead and go into Image and, oops. Yeah, I want to do a rasterize. So I'll do Layer, Rasterize, Type. Come on. And this is how you kind of create special effects. So it's now no longer a vector. I've now turned it into just pixels. So I can play with it with all the same filters of Photoshop, do blur and all that other junk. So I'm going to go into my filter and I want to find minimize, or minimum, sorry, which is here. So with minimum, I'm going to add in, you can see that it's kind of bolded it a little bit. I'll go ahead and add in, I don't know, 26 pixels. Great. Now what I'm going to do with this minimum is I'm going to make it white. So I'm going to invert it. So it's white. You see what it's done? Cool. This is why we don't use this stupid effects layer. You can do that with the effects layer, but now you can't really control it. I really like you using your filters and things to control them so you can do what I'm about to do now. I want to add a blur, a Gaussian blur. Oh, come on, you silly thing. So I'll do a Gaussian blur on this, and I'll make it, am I on the layer? There we go. Pretty blurry. There we go. Okay, so I got this in there. Now what I can even do with this is create, same thing, like a blending layer. I can then go in and play with how this layer affects the bottom layer. You notice how different, even with just black on white, it does different things. Okay, but I could take this black. Here's one cool thing I can do. Do another copy. Okay, oops, and then add this in as a mask to this font down here to make it disappear, or I can just get rid of it. So let's see if I can do that. What I want to do is make this font no, it won't let me do it straight in Photoshop like it does in Illustrator. So what I'll have to do is add in, I think what I could probably do is copy this layer, or I might even have to rasterize it before I do it. You know what? Let me rasterize it just to see. I think that's what I have to do. Layer, rasterize, the type, because I can't do it with vector. Now let me see if I can take this guy here, copy. I'll copy it, and I'll add in a mask, and I will paste. Oh, I should be able to apply. Oh, there it is. Why can't I? Huh. Well, let's do it the easy way. I'll go ahead and I'll take this layer that's up here, and I'll show you what I'm trying to do. I want to make a mask so that I make part of that blur disappear. So I'll go ahead and delete this layer, and now I'll just simply take this guy here, and I will select all the black. So I'll do an image. Let's see. Select color range. Oh, I can only have that thing. Select color range, and I'll just select black in the selection. I want to make sure I have the, oh, it's the image. And I'll hit OK. Okay. I don't know why it got the rest of it. Let me turn her off and try this again. It should just be on this layer. I don't know why it's doing the whole thing. So select color range. Love it when my mouse doesn't do what I want it to. Black. Okay. It's got black. Now what I'm going to do is go down this guy where it's just below. And then for instance, delete. Now I can add layer mask. That's what I wanted to do. Duh. All right. And then of course I want to invert it. Hey, look at that! Isn't that a cool little effect? So as I was messing around, I was trying to do something, and then I was able to do it with the selection. I made the selection and added the layer mask, and I give this thing a nice little glow to it. And I can even, what's kind of cool, since I did it with a copy of this, I can then even use this with opacity if, oh, you stupid thing. If I want to, say, lower that and create the glow, but still have a little bit of darkness in there. So there's a lot of real cool options you can do with this, and playing around with the filters and things. But do you see how now I've created in this image already a lot of layers? Okay. Even with her, I don't know if I want her. She's kind of lame in there now. So what I kind of want to do with her is maybe desaturate, but also bring in this, like I was saying with the, hey, where are you? Oh, that's why. Desaturate her so it's not, because she has a lot of warm colors and I don't want them. And maybe even turn her so she has like some cool colors. And then, who knows? Nah, I want her scene, so. And then I can use my levels because I think she has too much dark. I'd rather get her some light. Wait, I'm in this one, right? So curves. So I can kind of lighten her up and maybe even bring that. Oh no, I want the dark. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then I think she's a little close to this thing, but I do want her to overlap. So actually she was kind of in a good space. I'd probably want to make this larger to overlap them or something like that. All right. So now I'll go ahead and I'll save. I want to keep it as a Photoshop file, and when I'm finally done, like I said, I'll do a save as, and I want to save as a oh, it's currently being saved. I want to save as a TIFF. What do you mean it's being saved in the background? Oh shoot, here it is. Okay. So look how long this is taking. Remember, do you remember how big it was? Once this puppy's done saving, which is going to take a while, just once I've done all this, look at how large this file is going to be. Okay, you can only imagine if it's taking that long saving. 532.8 megabytes. Half a gigabyte already just for one image, and we might still be adding images to it, right? So once I'm done with this, I'm going to just go ahead and go to Save As. I'm going to want to take this into print, okay? And I'm going to save it as a copy, take out layers, and save as a TIFF, and that will flatten everything down. Okay, I can call it script font. Maybe a good one would be Final. Keep it in this little folder, okay, and save. And LZW compression is fine. All right. Discard layers and save as a copy. I don't want layers in it. And now it's saving. This is saving much faster. Great. So now if I look at this file here, which will be in there, notice it's much smaller, but you can bring that to your copy place. It'll probably be about that big no matter what, because with a TIFF it's looking at every pixel. So I could add a bunch of things to it. It'll still be the same size because it doesn't matter, because it just changes the pixel color and location. I don't have the layers. Photoshop files get huge because it looks at every pixel for every layer. And then adjustment layers, it adds coding to it so it can tell the pixels what to do for that layer. Okay? Does that make sense? So that's why it's non-destructive. You're not destroying the pixels. You keep the layers original, but with adjustments, you're destroying just the coding of what it's telling the layer to do. Okay? And that's that. Any